2, 1.
Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're having a good morning so far. Thanks for joining us again. If you weren't here for Monday we went over how to greet people properly. So if your dog has issues with jumping up on people, or running, knocking your kids down, there is a special way you can teach them to automatically greet people. So we did go over that Monday, and then we also recapped on the trick that we're doing this week, the trick challenge. Again, let's keep those videos coming. Let's see how your guys' progress is going. And again, whoever is able to teach their dog the trick first gets a free 30-minute session with me. So let's keep that up. Hope you guys are having a good week. Again, thanks to all you nurses and doctors out there that, Hey, what we're gonna go over is and it also shows other dogs kind of that there's no threats there because they are put in a submissive position. So it can be helpful for that. It can just be helpful overall in getting control of your dog if you're out walking, or if you're in a busy area and your dog gets distracted easily. Maybe down is probably the best position to put your dog in. But when teaching your dog down, be really patient with it, because down is actually what can be one of the hardest things to teach your dog, just because it is such a submissive position. So like Floki here, it didn't take him long because he's a very confident goofball. But for some dogs that are maybe a little more skittish or timid, because it is so submissive, it can be very intimidating trying to force them to lay all the way flat to the ground with you standing over them. So there's a few tricks I have up my sleeve to show you guys if you guys are struggling with teaching your dog this. So we're going to start off with Floki here. Floki has it down really well, but I'm going to try and break it down for you guys and show you kind of the step-by-step on how to teach your dog down. And again, please be patient with down because it can be one of the hardest things for your dog. So first, I always have my dog in a sit position. It's just a lot easier for your dog to go in and down from a sit. Now, eventually your dog should be able to just lay down from a stand on cue, but in the beginning phases when you're teaching down, it is easier when they're already in a sit to put them in a down. So I'm gonna have him sit. Good. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let him nibble on the treat as I slowly lure him down to the floor. Once he's laying flat, his whole body is flat on the floor, I'm gonna mark it with the down command as I reward him and then say okay. Again, when you're first teaching your dog anything new, you don't want to do too much time at first because they're still learning it. They don't even understand it yet. So you don't want to try and add a whole lot of time to where they fail over and over again. So it'll just be a quick second or two while he's in a down position. I'm going to mark it with the cue and a treat and then release him. He already heard me say it. Sit. Good. So I'm going to let him nibble on the treat. As I slowly lure, I'm going to just lure straight to the floor. So this is one way. Good. Then I'll say good, reward down. Then I'll say okay. Good. Now, every dog's a little different. Let's say you have a dog that keeps sticking its butt up in the air. What I would do, sit, is push the treat almost towards their chest. So as they're chewing on it, I'm going to push it towards their chest. And then once they lay flat, I'll say down. Good. Reward. Say okay. Good. So I'll do that again. So again, some dogs you can lure straight out and they'll slide down on the floor and lay flat. Some dogs you have to kind of push towards their chest to get them to move back and slide out backwards. Every dog's a little different. It kind of just depends on their structure as well. So kind of just keep that, try both and see what works best. Sit. Okay. Down. Good. And I usually point down for like a down hand signal. You can use whatever you want as long as you're consistent, but that's kind of just a natural thing that occurs when teaching a dog down. Okay. Now, let's say you have a dog that has a longer body like a Dachshund or a Basset Hound. Something that you can also do is lure them back by their hip. So as I lure him down, I'm going to arch back and let him chew on it near his hip and backside. And usually it makes them fall over and lay on their side. And then you can give the cue down and reward them. So good. Let them chew on it to their side. Good. Down. So see how he kind of just fell to the side there? That's exactly what you want. Good boy. Down. Okay. Now for some of you, you may have to go a little slower. He knows it, so it's hard for him to slow down. He already knows it, but for most of you, when you're just starting this, just realize it will look a little slower than this. So don't get frustrated, don't get upset if your dog's not doing it right off the bat like this. He knows it very well, so just be patient again. But I'll show that one more time. Sit. Good. So again, just let him nibble on it. I'm not actually giving the treat to them until he's in a position for a down. Because again, good, down. When you reward them and give the cue, it's when they're in the position. So they associate getting rewarded for whatever position they're in. So that's why you don't want to say it ahead of time when they don't even know it, and you definitely don't want to give them the treat unless they're actually in a position for it, because they associate that with the command that you're giving them. So that's kind of just the general basics of down. Then once they know down, you should eventually be able to say down on command. Sit. Down. Good. So that would kind of be the next step. Now, if you're still having trouble luring your dog, first of all, something I recommend is if you have something slightly elevated, like when we go over place on Friday, it's like I use a cot for place. So I use an elevated surface usually when I start teaching dogs down, because you don't have to lure as far to the floor. Because sometimes what happens is when you get in the habit of luring so far, your dog will only do it if you start luring them to the floor. So you want to kind of take that out of the equation as soon as you can. So there's a few different ways you can do that. One, you can do it where the dog is by your side, so you can kind of just squat down instead of getting in the habit of leaning over. Okay, good boy. Good. Sit. Good. So let's say you're starting down here by luring. Next time you do it, okay, sit. Try luring only halfway. Down. Good. And then next time you practice it, try only luring to about here, and then to the point where you're only letting him taste the treat and then pointing down and saying down. Good. Perfect. Okay. And again, they should stay in it until you say okay, which is why it's so important in the beginning to really work on short time first, so they know they're not allowed to get up till you give the okay or whatever your release cue is. That way you can start working on distance and know that no matter how far you go, they'll still stay in that position because they haven't heard you release them yet. So that is really important in the beginning phases of like sit and down. So just remember that. Then from the side, how you can do it is have them sit by your side. Sit. Good. And then instead of, and you can have a leg out in front, or you can have your knees together and squat down, whatever is most comfortable for you. But I'm going to kind of just squat, point, and say down, down. And wait for him. Good. Sometimes this is a waiting game too. Make your dog work for it. That's kind of why taking the luring out of the equation is important, because you really want your dog doing it on cue, not by you just luring them over and over again. So sometimes if you have to stay bent over or just kind of stop where you're at until they finally lay down, be patient and just wait for them to do it. that's gonna set you up better in the long run, because then they'll start doing it on command, and then they won't get in the habit of you just luring them every time to do it. Okay, so again, I'll show that again. I'm just having him sit by my side, and then I'm just gonna kind of bend over slightly, point down, and say down, down. Good. And again, really make sure that butt is all the way down. Make sure you're not rewarding them when their butt is in the air, because then they're gonna think a bow is a down position, and that is not, obviously. So, okay, good. Good boy. Then, once they have down well, you can start adding distance. Sit. Down. Good. And a good way to add time is kind of step back, tell them good, reward them, kind of shuffle to the other side to add more time, step back to reward them, good. And then I'll say, okay, good boy, good, good. So eventually you guys should be able to tell them down from a distance. So hand signals are great in the beginning because, again, dogs are very visual learners. So it is good to have hand signals in the beginning, but ultimately you want to have a good vocal cue, because from a distance, that's what they're going to be able to hear. They may not always be able to see your hand cues from a far distance. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. Okay, I'm going to go get Candy, and I'm going to kind of just work with him a little bit to show you guys what it looks like to for a dog to know down from a distance, and more advanced versions of it. I'm going to do a spin. Spin. Come on. Spin. Oh, there's Candy. Good. So let's work on those spin tricks, and let's keep up with the high five. Hey, buddy. You ready? And he's gonna sniff out everything here for a little bit. Get his sniffs out. Alright, you ready? Okay, ready? Can you sit? Can you sit? Sit. Sit. Good. Hey, Candy, down. Down. Of course, she's going to be a little stubborn today. Candy, down. Down. Good. Now, once I know a dog knows everything really well, I start only treating them when I release them. Candy, sit. He's super distracted by all these different smells out here. Sit. Sit. Good. Thank you. Candy, down. He doesn't even want treats right now. That's not normal. Okay, then. Come here. Okay, I'm gonna go get Floki again. He's too distracted by the smells. Just a second.
Show you guys around the yard a little bit. This is our little dog yard. They have a trampoline they like to get and lay out on. And then we have the grass yard to run around in. And a little seating set. They like that, believe it or not. And if you have any questions about training that you'd like to see, or problem behaviors you have with your dog, just comment and ask Jenna for other things that you would like help with training on, and we'll cover them.
Patient, guys. It's getting pretty hot out here. Okay, so again, I'm just going to show you more advanced. We're getting them to down, walking off at a distance, kind of running around, getting some distractions along with it. So sit. Good. Down. Down. Good boy. So again, to add some more distance, I would recommend starting off with only about 2 to 4 steps at a time. And then if they're doing really well with that in the beginning, then you can start adding more steps to it each time you work on it. Now again, if your dog, let's say your dog fails at 10 steps away every time, make sure you go back to about 5 steps halfway and see how they do with that. And if they do really well with that the first few times, then you can go back and try more steps and further distance. Dogs do shut down if they fail over and over again. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't push them too much at once, you know, especially if they're not being successful with it every time. So something that's usually easy to add more time as well is I have my phone on me and I set a timer. Like, so I'll start off with like 15 seconds from like, let's say 6 feet away. And so that's usually a good rule of thumb on how to start working on more time, as well as having like a timer close to you. That way you're consistent and precise with the time every time as well. Good. So again, every time I go back to him, I'm going to him, telling him good, rewarding him, letting him know that that's what I want him doing. But he's not finished yet because I haven't given him his release cue yet. Okay, good. Good boy. Down. Good boy. Good. Something that can be a big distraction for dogs, kind of like an easy way to start adding distractions just with you and your dog, is like stepping over them or walking in a circle around them. Good. And definitely really praise and reward them if they do really well with that. Now I'm going to try stepping over him. Good. Good boy. Okay. Good. Good job, then. Good. And then you can also try it like with walking. So sit. Down. Good. So then even something as simple as like having your back turned to them when you ask them or give them a command to do would be kind of more an advanced thing to work on with them. That could be a slight distraction with your dog if they have just kind of a basic down, down really well. Good. Good boy. Kind of making movements is another distraction to work on with your dog while in a down. So I'm going to kind of jump around. Good. So if he stays in a down, I'm going to make sure I reward him for that. Then I'll kind of jump. See? That's what got him. Sit. So running off, down, especially for dogs that have prey drive, that's probably going to be the thing that's going to get them the most because they're so used to just getting up and chasing after it. Floki here is an Australian Shepherd, so he's a herding breed. So I knew that that's what's going to get him. So that's what I work on a lot with him, especially if I'm wanting to make sure he's going to stay in a down with kids running around or where there's a lot of movement. So that's something that I personally know that has to be worked on a lot with him if I want to make sure he stays in a down with a lot of fast movements going around as a distraction with wherever I'm at. So. Good boy. Okay, good job. Okay, guys, I'll demonstrate high five again real quick for those of you that weren't here Monday, that weren't with us Monday. So, if your dog knows shake, again, if your dog doesn't know shake, make a comment, and I will start to go over that for you guys Friday sometime, if there's plenty of you. But usually, generally, most dogs, people are able to teach their dog to shake pretty easily. So I'm going to put my hand out for shake without saying it. And then the moment his paw is in my hand, I'm going to flip it up by his head and then say high five. So, high five. Good. Good boy. High five. Good. Then I'm just going to flip it up. High five. Good. And then once they understand it, you'll just put your hand up. High five. Good. And ask for a high five. And this is something great to practice with your kids and get your kids involved. High five. Good. Good boy. Perfect. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. And I hope to see you guys on Friday. Have a good one.